There's some of the grease and the oils, and it brings back a lot of fond memories. And sometimes that's all these vets they hold on to. It's just that.
Tonight, the emergency involving American military history in Buffalo. Can the ship be saved? Fox Buffalo team coverage ahead.
There has to be consequences to this.
He was at the center of the storm, and you'll hear what he has to say about what happened in the wake of his controversial visit to UB.
I wanted to kill people. I wanted to watch people die right in front of my face immediately.
The suspected subway shooter's anger was brewing online. How can you stop a lone wolf attacker without violating the First Amendment?
Buffalo's Fox 29 News at 10 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Michael Benny. Tonight there are promises a vintage battleship will rise again in Buffalo. But as we speak, the USS The Sullivans is listing badly after taking on a lot of water. To the Fox Box right now. Tonight we look at what's ahead for the mission to save the World War II era ship. And we're with the people who were drawn to the water's edge to watch a sad spectacle. Also tonight, Schumer and Higgins, two top Democrats. Do they have trust in Governor Hochul after the miscalculation over choosing a second in command who had to quit? Also, we end the week with wind and a chill. Let's get the very latest right now in the Fox First Forecast with meteorologist Scott Hensco.
Hey, good evening. All the rain showers are in the rear view now. Look, they're gone. They're out of here. In its wake is a clear sky overnight, and for much of the overnight, we'll stay in the low 40s. It'll bump up to near 50 at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Here's what you got to know before you go for the big Easter weekend coming. So the May preview is over, folks. Yeah, a couple of nice mild days. That's gone. Showers coming in Friday. A chilly weekend with occasional rain and wet snow showers on Saturday and chilly egg hunts for Sunday. I'm sorry, terrible timing. We'll have much more on that forecast coming up in just a little bit.
Thank you, Scott. A piece of this country's military history is just barely staying afloat in the Buffalo waterfront right now. The USS The Sullivans taking on water last night. The ship is a Fletcher-class destroyer, the largest of its kind to fight in World War II. It was commissioned in 1943, survived action in that war, along with Korea and the Cuban Missile Crisis before it was decommissioned in 1965. Just last year, the ship reached emergency repair status when water breached the hull. Repairs started last summer and were supposed to pick up next week. Now it's halfway underwater. Fox Buffalo's Maya Skinner and Olivia Dance have been at the Sullivans the entire day. We just heard from Buffalo City Hall. Officials now estimating it's taken on 3 million gallons of water. Maya, let's start with you tonight. Can the Sullivans be saved?
Michael, there's definitely a lot of concern about saving the ship, but the Navy Park and local officials say they're pretty confident that it can be saved.
This is an important part of our U.S. naval heritage.
During a press conference Thursday afternoon about the state of the USS The Sullivans, Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown, along with the Naval Park CEO Paul Marzello and other local leaders, provided updates about the ship.
The problem seems to be aft of midship, meaning more towards the stern. We also know that it's starboard side, right side, versus port side on the left. So somewhere in that lower right section of the hull, we have a problem, and we don't know what it is.
Despite dealing with current unknowns, Marzello says they're taking all the necessary measures to save the boat by using divers and pumping out the water. Erie County Executive Mark Polenkars says it's going to take some funds to get it repaired.
Very, very saddened to see what has happened in just in the last 24 hours. And the county emergency services was here earlier, working, of course, in conjunction with the city's team, as well as what we know the state will be assisting. And we're here to help as best as we can. I think we all agree that we are going to save the ship.
Everyone who spoke each emphasized the ship's importance to the Buffalo community and across the country. Marzello says they are not giving up.
We have an 80-year-old vessel that was meant to serve about 25 years, and she served us honorably. Has an incredible reputation, incredible story, but 80 years later, was she meant to be a museum ship? That was never in the plan. We are making it the plan because of what it symbolizes. And that's why it's important for us to make sure she stays afloat.
And Marzello says the next step in this process will be finding volunteers to help clean up the ship once they get it back upright. Back to you, Michael.
All right, the resolve is so clear in the voices of the officials who talked to you today, Maya. Olivia, let's switch to you. Given how much this vessel means to Buffalo, this really did draw people with some deep emotion right to the water's edge, didn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Michael. Earlier today, Canalside was packed with people coming to not only see what was happening, but also to pay their respects, and among them were several veterans.
It's history. Buffalo is so filled with history around here.
At the center of all that history, the USS the Sullivans.
It's a national historic landmark.
A World War II ship that's become a tradition at Buffalo's Canalside.
It makes me happy to be a veteran.
Especially for veterans.
I was in Desert Storm and all the Desert Shield.
Who still work on the ship, maintaining it.
I mean, I was the caretaker of it for all that time. So every morning I'd be down here doing various things.
Joe Cuddy is an Air Force veteran. He worked on the ship for 17 years, but it was more than just a job.
It was a camaraderie of veterans working together, and we love this place. We try to do everything that we could to, keep it somewhat going.
Paul Komornicki, a Navy veteran, also helped out on the ship.
That ship wasn't really made to be here this long. They were just a quick in and out, do a couple war services.
The 78-year-old ship wasn't meant to last long. Its wear and tear noticeable when on board.
If you went down below, you couldn't go, like everything was locked up, so you couldn't go too far down because it'd be like water there. So yeah, the whole thing was flooding. They kept pumping it out, pumping it out. It was just bound to happen.
Repairing the ship was paused until the spring, and on Wednesday night, the water won.
When I walked down here this morning, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's just so sad.
Water rushed in, and the USS the Sullivans sunk significantly.
And this is part of who we are. It's an absolute shame. It breaks my heart to see it like this.
Chris Holtz, also a Navy veteran, raced down to Canalside as soon as he heard the news. He had to see it to believe it.
I wanted to see it with my own eyes.
The USS Little Rock sits next to the USS the Sullivans. Holtz has many good memories on the ships, and as crews race to determine the problem and save history, he holds on to them.
It breaks my heart because my wife and I got married right next to her on the Little Rock. So it's got a lot of history to us, and it means a lot to us.
Saving the ship from sinking is the only option.
History is bound to repeat itself if you don't know it. And this is history. And it's Navy veterans. Any Navy veteran, Coast Guard veteran, anybody who's been on time on a ship, I'll tell you, the smell is exactly the same. There's something about that gray paint. There's something about the grease and the oils, and it brings back a lot of fond memories. And sometimes that's all these vets, they hold on to.
And Michael, the veterans I spoke to tell me it means the world to them to see so many people coming down here to show their support.
Oh boy, when he talks about the paint, the smell of the paint, that's what I'm most struck by. That in the stunning visuals that you both showed us. I'm curious, Olivia and Maya, what sticks with you at the end of this day after being there all day? Is it an image? Is it someone you talked to? What is it? I'll go Olivia first, please.
Yeah, Michael, it's actually exactly what you just said, because, the veteran that you just saw, he was talking about the paint and the smell and the grease and the oil inside of these boats. But I also spoke with another veteran earlier who they didn't know each other. He didn't want to go on camera, and he was crying looking at this situation unfolding here. And he also mentioned the smell and the paint of the ship and how it brings back memories to him. And so it was striking to see two veterans who didn't know each other have the same response and say the same thing about this all unfolding.
And Maya?
Yeah, Michael, I think Michael, I think the importance of it being a staple piece in Buffalo, I think that's what really stood out to me. So many people saying, we go by here with our family all the time in the summer, and just being able to stop by and look at it or drive by it. A lot of people really admire it.
part of the landscape. Thank you both tonight. Appreciate it. The namesake of the USS the Sullivans is rooted in family. The ship was named after the 5 Sullivan brothers, Joseph, Francis, Albert, Madison, and George. They all served in the Navy in World War II together, and by sad coincidence, the brothers died when the USS Juno was struck by a Japanese sub during the Battle of Guadalcanal. But their names live on another naval destroyer, a newer ship also named the Sullivans after the brothers. It launched in 1995. Most recently, it was operating in Europe, participating in a number of activities to support the United States and NATO allies. The ship's motto, "We stick together." Continuing coverage tonight. A protest that turned hostile is still under review right now by the University at Buffalo police. It happened after a visit by retired Army Colonel Allen West, who was invited to speak at the university by a conservative campus group. Colonel West had to be escorted by police off campus after his speech. He has a lot to say about what happened. Fox Buffalo's Emily Gersh talked to him about his experience, and she reports now.
What is your reaction to what happened after your remarks at University at Buffalo?
Well, I found it, somewhat appalling and quite embarrassing for the university because they did not provide a secure environment.
Colonel Allen West is seen here on this cell phone video from last Thursday, being escorted off the University at Buffalo's North Campus as angry protesters yelled, "I'm black and I'm proud." West was invited to speak by a conservative student group, Young America's Foundation. The name of his speech was "America is not racist, why American values are exceptional." The president of the Black Student Union told me the title, which West says the Young America's Foundation chose, is what provoked some students.
There's a thing in the United States of America called freedom of speech. And so if a title provokes someone to these acts of violence, then we've got some serious issues, especially on that university campus and all across the United States of America. If you are so provoked, then don't attend.
The event's organizer, Therese Purcell, is the president of UB's Young Americas for Freedom. She says she and other group members were chased by the protesters as she was leaving campus with West. 3 of the group's members have filed reports for harassment. West says it was during the Q&A portion of his remarks where things escalated.
They came with an agenda, and therefore, whatever I stood up there and talked about, it had no meaning to them because as a black man, for them, I had to say that America is racist.
West says he spoke about being born in a blacks-only hospital and about overcoming racism to become a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army and then a congressman and chairman of the Texas Republican Party.
Why would you not want to hear those stories? Stories of being a victor and not stories of being a victim. And I think that is something that these young people need to understand.
He says he thinks the organizers of the protest should be expelled.
There has to be consequences to this. And if there are not consequences, then the University of Buffalo is complicit in aiding and abetting the environment that they created and allowed to promulgate.
A spokesperson for UB tells us university police are continuing to review reports of harassment and social media threats. He says as part of its review, the university will also meet with student leaders to discuss their concerns. He also says UB is committed to free speech and providing a safe and welcoming environment for all. Emily Gersh, Fox Buffalo.
Mixed signals in an economy facing the highest inflation since the 80s. Could the newest numbers out tonight wind up triggering an economic slowdown?
We have a very active weather pattern around here. One front gone, colder air north and west up in the Arrowhead of Minnesota. We'll talk about this and when it may come here to Buffalo in the forecast next.
Plus, with political scandal in Albany, Democrats taking the chance to get the edge on the governor in her bid for the election. That's coming up at 10:30.